A few hours ago in Shanghai, something happened that nobody in Formula One expected. A 19-year-old rookie just stunned the entire grid. Kimi Antonelli. Second race weekend of his career. And he just delivered the fastest lap of qualifying for the Chinese Grand Prix. But here is where the story takes a dramatic turn. Because minutes after that lap, rival teams started studying the data. And what they found raised serious questions inside the paddock. Antonelli's lap was not just fast. It was unusually efficient. Perfect braking traces. Perfect corner rotation. And on the longest straight in Shanghai, the Mercedes suddenly accelerated in a way that caught the attention of every engineer watching. Meanwhile, the rest of the grid was struggling. Ferrari could not match the deployment. McLaren could not match the straight-line speed. And Red Bull, the team that dominated the previous era of Formula One, was nowhere near the front. Max Verstappen could only qualify 8th. More than 1.5 seconds behind the fastest Mercedes lap. In modern Formula One, that kind of gap is enormous. And that is exactly why teams immediately began analyzing the telemetry. Because if the data is correct, Mercedes may have already solved the biggest technical puzzle of the new regulation era. Energy management. How to recover power. How to deploy it perfectly. And how to maintain acceleration longer than any rival on the grid. But when those questions started spreading through the paddock, the reaction inside the Mercedes garage was immediate. Furious. Because from their perspective, there is nothing mysterious about Antonelli's lap. Just a perfectly prepared car. And a rookie who delivered a flawless qualifying performance. So now the entire paddock is asking one question. Did Kimi Antonelli just deliver the lap of a lifetime? Or did his fastest lap in China reveal a technical advantage that could make Mercedes unstoppable this season? Subscribe to the channel, because the data from that qualifying lap may have just revealed the real balance of power in Formula One. The moment qualifying ended in Shanghai, the celebration inside the Mercedes garage was immediate. Pole position. Front row lockout. A rookie delivering the fastest lap of the session. On paper, it looked like the perfect afternoon. But just minutes later, something unexpected started happening around the paddock. Other teams began analyzing Antonelli's lap in detail. In modern Formula One, that happens after every qualifying session. Engineers from rival teams study telemetry, speed traces, and sector times. They look for patterns. Small clues that reveal how a competitor is extracting performance. Normally, those comparisons show tiny differences. One car is faster in a corner. Another is faster on the straight. But when analysts started overlaying Antonelli's lap with the data from Ferrari, McLaren, and Red Bull, one pattern stood out immediately. The Mercedes W17 was gaining time in a very specific part of the circuit. The final sector. This part of the Shanghai track is extremely demanding. It combines a long sequence of loaded corners with the longest straight on the circuit. And that straight is where the new power unit regulations really show their importance. Under the current rules, every team must carefully manage how electrical energy is deployed during a lap. The hybrid system provides huge bursts of power. But that energy is limited. Use it too early, and the car runs out before the end of the straight. Save too much energy, and the car loses acceleration when exiting corners. Finding the perfect balance is one of the hardest technical challenges in Formula One right now. But during Antonelli's lap, the Mercedes looked different. As he exited the final corner and applied full throttle, the W17 accelerated in a way that immediately caught the attention of rival engineers. The speed trace looked incredibly smooth. No sudden drop in acceleration. No early loss of electrical boost. Just a steady surge of power all the way down the straight. And that is exactly where the lap began to look unusual compared with other cars. Because most teams show a clear pattern in that section. Strong acceleration at the beginning of the straight. Then a gradual drop as the hybrid system runs out of stored energy. But the Mercedes seemed to maintain that acceleration longer than expected. For rival engineers studying the telemetry, that detail raised an obvious question. How is Mercedes managing its energy deployment so efficiently? Because the 2026 power unit regulations introduced one of the most complex hybrid systems the sport has ever seen. Energy recovery under braking. Battery management across the lap. Precise timing of electrical boost. Everything must work together perfectly. And most teams are still learning how to optimize those systems. But the data from Shanghai suggests that Mercedes may already have found a very effective solution. Which is exactly why Antonelli's lap has become the focus of so much attention tonight. Because the car was not just fast. It was incredibly consistent. Through the first sector, Antonelli matched the best drivers on the grid. Through the middle sector, the Mercedes looked stable under heavy braking. But in the final sector, the car suddenly pulled away. And that difference explains why the gap at the end of qualifying looked so dramatic. Max Verstappen could only qualify 8th. His teammate Isaac Hadjar finished 9th. Both Red Bull cars more than 1.5 seconds away from the fastest Mercedes lap. In modern Formula One, that is an enormous difference. Especially for a team that dominated the previous era of the sport. And that contrast is exactly what has intensified the discussion inside the paddock tonight. Because while Red Bull appears to be struggling with a car that feels unstable and difficult to balance, Mercedes looks completely comfortable with the new regulations. The W17 seems to combine 3 key strengths: power, energy efficiency, and braking stability. That combination allows drivers to attack corners aggressively, recover energy effectively, and then deploy that energy at exactly the right moment. Which is why Antonelli's lap looked so controlled from start to finish. For a rookie, delivering a lap like that is extremely rare. But inside the Mercedes garage, the team insists there is no mystery behind it. From their perspective, the explanation is simple. The car is working exactly as designed. The driver executed perfectly. And the result speaks for itself. But in Formula One, when a team suddenly appears to have an advantage under brand new regulations, curiosity spreads quickly. Every rival team wants to understand what they might be missing. And tonight, after qualifying in Shanghai, one question is quietly spreading through the paddock. Did Kimi Antonelli simply deliver an extraordinary lap? Or did that fastest lap reveal that Mercedes may already have solved the most important technical puzzle of the new Formula One era? But the deeper the analysis went, the more uncomfortable the situation became for the rest of the grid. Because when engineers overlaid Antonelli's telemetry with the laps from Ferrari and McLaren, the difference was not just on the straight. It started even before that. At the exit of the final corner. This is one of the most critical moments in the entire lap at Shanghai. Drivers enter that long right-hander carrying huge speed. The car is loaded heavily on the rear tires. And the moment the driver begins applying throttle, the balance of the car becomes everything. Too much rear movement, and the driver must lift. Too little traction, and the acceleration suffers immediately. Most cars on the grid showed small corrections there. Tiny steering adjustments. Micro lifts of the throttle. But Antonelli's Mercedes looked incredibly stable. He carried impressive speed through the corner. Then applied throttle earlier than almost anyone else. That early throttle application is extremely important. Because every fraction of a second gained at the start of a straight multiplies by the end of it. The earlier the acceleration begins, the higher the top speed becomes. And that is exactly what the data from Shanghai revealed. Antonelli was not just fast on the straight. He was starting his acceleration earlier than most drivers. Which suggests something very important about the Mercedes chassis. The rear of the W17 appears to be extremely stable under load. That stability allows the driver to trust the car when applying throttle. No hesitation. No correction. Just full power. And when that stability combines with an efficient energy deployment system, the result becomes extremely difficult to match. Because the car exits the corner faster, deploys energy efficiently, and maintains acceleration longer than the competition. That combination is exactly what rival engineers are trying to understand tonight. Because under the new regulations, energy recovery and deployment are no longer secondary details. They are the heart of performance. Every team must balance 3 critical elements: mechanical grip, aerodynamic efficiency, and hybrid energy management. If one of those elements is missing, the lap time disappears instantly. But the Mercedes W17 appears to combine all 3 extremely well. Which explains why the car looked so complete during qualifying. Through the corners it remained stable. Under braking it looked composed. And on the straight it simply accelerated away. And this is where the contrast with Red Bull becomes impossible to ignore. Because while Mercedes looked calm and balanced, the RB22 looked nervous. Max Verstappen described the car as extremely difficult to control. Unstable on entry. Floating through the middle of corners. And lacking traction when exiting slow turns. Those characteristics are the exact opposite of what the Mercedes is showing right now. Which explains why the gap in qualifying became so dramatic. Verstappen could only manage 8th place. His teammate Isaac Hadjar finished 9th. Both Red Bulls more than 1.5 seconds away from Antonelli's pole lap. For a team that dominated the previous generation of cars, that result has shocked the paddock. Because it suggests that the balance of power in Formula One may be changing faster than anyone expected. And that possibility is exactly why Antonelli's lap is being analyzed so intensely tonight. Not just because it was fast, but because it may reveal something about the future of the season. Because if Mercedes has truly mastered the balance between chassis stability and energy deployment, then the W17 could have a structural advantage under the new regulations. An advantage that cannot be easily copied overnight. And that would explain why the reaction inside the Mercedes garage has been so defensive. According to several reports in the paddock, the team was not happy to hear rival engineers questioning the performance of Antonelli's lap. From their perspective, the explanation is simple. The car is strong. The driver executed perfectly. And the result is completely legitimate. But Formula One has always worked the same way. When one team suddenly finds a breakthrough, the rest of the grid starts searching for answers. Every sector time is analyzed. Every telemetry trace is examined. Every detail becomes part of the puzzle. And tonight, after qualifying in Shanghai, that puzzle has only become more fascinating. Because the data from Antonelli's fastest lap suggests something that could shape the entire championship. A rookie driver. A dominant car. And a team that may already understand the new regulations better than anyone else. Which leads to the question that every engineer in the paddock is quietly asking right now. Did Kimi Antonelli simply deliver one incredible qualifying lap? Or did that lap reveal that Mercedes may already hold the biggest technical advantage of the new Formula One era?